As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I just want to get home to the family, honestly. Start looking at the schedule. Obviously, I got, my son. One of my boys is just trying to decide if he's going to, enter the draft or go back to school. I got another kid that's playing AU ball right now. My daughter is playing volleyball, and my wife is doing so many great things. So it's about family right now. And then in a couple months, I got to go to Vegas for training camp.
Is it worth it? At this point, is it worth it? Because obviously, the money isn't an issue. Is this how you stay young? Is this your fountain of youth? LeBron James? Gotta be.
He was pretty darn good this year.
His numbers, phenomenal.
He's going to play in the Olympics.
He's still good, and that's not with just the reflection of his age. That's with the rest of his career. However, Laker fans, how you feeling today? I didn't say that with a smile on my face. I did not say that.
The Lakers suck yesterday. They suck again today.
Chuck also threw a new one out. You got to go to Galveston, man. That dirty water. You don't even deserve Cancun.
You can't go to Cancun. You got to go to Galveston.
You got to go to Galveston.
People don't even know how bad it is.
No.
Don't even know.
No. Just because it's the Gulf of Mexico, I will tell you. I'll tell you what's kind of fun though, is having swam in that gross, disgusting water. I feel like the fish can't attack you because they can't see you either. It's good.
Is there fish?
There's something under there.
There's something out there.
Are we confirmed that?
I've done the thing. So when I was a kid, we used to go to Galveston too, and because it was like you're in Texas. Do we have a beach? Well, sort of. Well, can we go visit it? You can technically. You
Should you go in the water?
So you go in the water, and there's like sandbars like a half a mile out. So you'd kind of swim out there, and then you'd stand. You'd be standing in the ocean, like up to your ankles, and you're like a half mile out. And you'd be like, what are we doing out here? They're all, only thing that's good out here. That's how you go. That's how you punish people is going to the off season. Send them to Galveston. Other places. You're not allowed to go to Cancun. You got to go to Galveston. Not allowed to you can't go to France. Didn't we say that LeBron was more of a Nice, France guy? Anthony Davis said something really interesting, JJ. I'm going to be hanging out with LeBron all summer. Does that mean he's working out? What's going on?
Are they making Space Jam 3?
They're not getting better at basketball.
They're not playing in the playoffs next year.
I'll tell you what they're not doing. They're not winning a title anytime soon.
Man,
hey, rinse and repeat. Fire your coach. Darvin Ham is no longer going to be the coach of the LA Lakers.
He has no chance. He's not going to make it through this week.
What are we doing then? If you're a Laker fan, am I doing this just because I love to have a little bit of something because the Utah Jazz were nowhere even close to sniffing the playoffs a little bit? There's some of that there. But I don't know what the law of diminishing returns at some point comes into play.
Suck it up and take the loss.
Come on, Laker fans. If that doesn't get dropped 10 times during today's show, revolving around everything.
Suck it up and take the loss.
It's a new feature here on JJ and Alex.
Listen, if there's a guy in a hockey making some commentary in hockey, it's going to happen. We're going to use it. We've got tons to jump into. Not the least of which is the Lakers being eliminated from the playoffs. It's just a shame, Just a shame. But get in line, Lakers. You and a bunch of other teams who have a long list of really, really good guys on the roster. Well, I should say a lot of money spoken for on the roster.
Yeah.
Are eliminated from the playoffs. It's a new day. We've got tons going on in the program. Our program is brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, nutritious boost. And we're going to get into the cut right now. So let's get into some NBA playoffs. I'm going to lean on JJ's wisdom on this thing, on how this is going to end up, and what the future of the league looks like, because the superstar team is no more. Let's jump in right here. It is the cut, top of the hour.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If he does, obviously our goal is to come back and
be a championship contender. Stay healthy and give Laker Nation what they deserve.
Suck it up and take the loss.
What is it the Laker Nation deserves, JJ? What is it that they deserve?
Our scorn.
A passionate fan base who just loves their team and is just so dedicated.
It's the most Laker fan. You're gonna get so mad at me right now. You're gonna drive off the road or wherever you are.
I'm listening. I can't.
It's not a more spoiled fan base in professional sports, a more entitled fan base in professional sports that thinks every year they're supposed to win a championship and they're supposed to get the best players and everything's the best and this is the best and that is the best. We can get what we want, do what we want, we run the league. Well, right now, you got a franchise that's in cap hell, that doesn't have much options as far as making their team better. The Jazz have one of their first-round draft picks coming up here soon. The Lakers don't have a lot of that draft capital that you'd need to use to get better. They have some good players on their roster. I think Austin Reeves is a nice player.
Sure.
Do Laker fans, do you still love D'Lo at this point?
I don't know if they love LeBron at this point. And I know that the ownership.
Whoa.
Here's the thing.
Whoa. Wait, what?
Well, okay.
Whoa.
You've got him for 2 more years. But again, this is what I'm saying.
Imagine that team without LeBron.
Oh, absolutely.
What's the future then? But you have to think about that because he's 39 years old.
Because it's going to happen sooner than it will, rather than later.
Maybe this offseason.
Let's say, because he says he wants to go another couple of years, right? So let's imagine that the season ends similarly. I can't imagine it would end any differently for this Lakers team as it is currently constituted over the next 2 seasons. What changes? You get a different head coach in there, and then you do the same thing. Rinse and repeat. You fire the guy after a couple of seasons because it's not going well. All right? So what is it that you're getting? If you're LeBron, where is his legacy going to sit? It has to take a hit when stuff like this happens, or does it because you go, well, he's a little bit older, this is what happens.
He's the NBA's all-time leading scorer. He has multiple championships. I mean, his legacy is what it is at this point.
Sure.
I mean, Michael Jordan played with the Wizards. Have we forgotten that?
We tried to.
Did that impact his legacy?
No,
He's still
I guess
the GOAT,
in the end,
right?
I guess in the end we don't. But again, you're getting less and less from LeBron, not in terms of his personal production. The problem is it looks like he's the only guy out there playing. Right? Doesn't it look like sometimes he's the only guy out there trying? Him and Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves looks like so disheveled after a game. You're like, I don't know what's going on here. Where does this team go now? Do they have a bevy of picks over the next couple seasons, JJ?
Not a bevy, no. Not a bevy. And look, I'm looking at their roster right now. Okay, you owe LeBron James $47 million and Anthony Davis $40 million. That's 2 players. All right, now I'm going to read the rest of the roster, and I want to tell you, do you like this roster? So if you took LeBron James and Anthony Davis away, here's your roster. D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, Taurean Prince, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Christian Wood, Cam Reddish, Jackson Hayes, Max Christie, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Maxwell Lewis. That is their roster outside of the big 2. And now you're wondering, why'd the Lakers lose 4-1 to the Nuggets? Well, I just spelled it out right there. You take away their top 2 players who make $87 million combined, and that number goes up next year.
I was going to say, they're going to take a big pay cut, right?
They can't go out and sign free agents. They don't have the space to do that.
No.
So what player did I just mention? What player or group of players that I just mentioned could you package together to bring in another player that would help them? The only player I think that has tremendous value outside of LeBron James and Anthony Davis is Austin Reeves.
Rory Hachimura's had a pretty decent. He's gotten better.
Yeah, I mean, well then,
what's that meme?
Does that get? Just ask Laker fans how much they love Rui Hachimura. I mean, is that? Can you package Rui Hachimura to go get that other player you need? And is their depth really good? I mean,
no.
They're just kind of honestly a mid NBA franchise right now, even with arguably one of the greatest players of all time, and Anthony Davis, who should be better than he is, or should be doing more or carrying more of a load. Although Anthony Davis is pretty darn good. He's an all-star. He's a really, really good player. I think everyone had expectations of Anthony Davis being a top 10 guy, which he's just not right now. But he's getting paid like it at $40 million.
Well,
so you're kind of what if you're Lakers? If you're the Lakers, how do you improve this roster enough to take the next step? Because that's what LeBron wants to do. Or does LeBron just fine with playing out the rest of his days as an NBA player in LA, which is not a bad place to live, and obviously he does a lot of things, on the side with his other business ventures that make sense in Los Angeles, and he just plays until he doesn't, he can't anymore. I mean, it is still the Lakers. It's still a nice place to play. I just don't know what LeBron wants to do moving forward. Does the competitive part of LeBron James, how does he balance that with the business side of LeBron James? Because there's two different things here, paths he could take.
Well, I don't think that anybody looks at it and goes, let's get LeBron a title before he's done. I think that the best of LeBron we've seen. We've already seen the best of LeBron. And that's not to say as an individual, because I think he's probably going to be – he's still always going to be that – he's going to be an all-star not just because of his name.
What's left for him to accomplish?
There's nothing else. And maybe it should be that he helps build what this looks like. I think the reality is that he knows too. Like, LA is such a fickle place. What an awful place to try and be a professional, because the fans are not good. They're not an educated fan base.
Unless you're the best at whatever, they're going to check out and go to the beach.
Big time. It's the Hollywood Walk of Fame, right? Where you go, wow, look at all these stars, but you try not to pay attention to all the disgustingness going on around you on Hollywood Boulevard, right? Or wherever you might find yourself in LA at this point. LA is not for him. LeBron's legacy now is whatever ends up happening with a franchise that goes to Las Vegas that he's going to be a part owner of. I cannot imagine. The game is not as fun with LeBron out of it. The NBA is not as fun with LeBron out of it. But the Lakers are no better right now with LeBron. They're not doing anything. And by the way, the NBA playoffs have been a real freaking dog this year. There's one competitive series in the East right now. There's one competitive series in the West right now. Everybody's getting swept. They're losing in fun. Look, tonight, what do you have?
Another chance to watch some sweeps.
At the very least, you got the Knicks up on Philly 3-1 and walking away with that one. Indiana, kudos. They're probably going to walk away with that one too. What's going to happen with that game tonight? Are Giannis and Dame still considered out? Are they
Doubtful.
out? Doubtful. That season's over.
Yep.
The superest of most super teams that are in the playoffs right now.
Who is it?
The
super team era is over, man.
I mean, it's not working. You could make the argument that Boston is, but Boston 2 seconds ago was a really nice young roster.
But that's
an amazing young roster.
Outside of the Porzingis edition, that's all organic. That was their own guys.
Yes.
They drafted Jaylen Brown. Look, give Danny Ainge credit. And again, we keep going back to this. He drafted Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. He did a quick rebuild, and it was successful, and now they still have that foundation even after he's gone. Yes, you can add pieces down the way, but you got to have that organic beginning, and it starts in the draft, and they've done that. So super team, well, it's hard to say it's a super team when you didn't sign all those guys in free agency. But you look at what the Bucks tried to do this year is just kind of they threw together. They went out and rolled the dice on Dame, knowing it would damage their roster depth, which is exactly what it did. And then they go out and fire a coach that was 30-10 after 40 games. And what's Doc Rivers done since?
By the way, did you see
it's overmanaging a team? It's too much meddling in something.
Did you see that quietly? I mean, it was just one of those things that nobody really. I don't think anybody said anything about this. But Brad Stevens, who walked away from being a head coach in the league to now being in the front office of the Celtics, executive of the year.
Yeah. Not
just because he signed, or not just because he, that the Celtics are 64 and whatever they ended up finishing, 64-18 or whatever. It's because he brought, even with their really, really talented roster, he still figured out how to get Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis to that team.
The Drew Holiday trade, by the way, the Jazz tried to get Drew Holiday pretty aggressively. They just lost out to the Celtics.
Yeah.
But that was a massive deal. That was brilliant. And then, yes, the Porzingis thing. So you're looking at the way Boston has been doing their team building. That's how you do it. You look at the way the Lakers have done it, or the Bucks. That's not how you do it. And you can't sacrifice your depth. The Suns, too. I mean, outside of the big three, what did the Suns roster look like? It was not great. And you get in the playoffs, and a team with a lot of depth, the Minnesota Timberwolves, is going to sweep you. You got to have the key in the NBA today is sound roster management. You got to do it the smart way. You can't cut corners anymore. As Dennis Lindsay used to say, you can't skip steps. And the Bucks tried to skip a step this year. The Suns tried to skip steps. Matt Ishbia said we're all in on a championship. They blew a bunch of picks to try to bring in players. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they drafted it right. They got it right with Anthony Edwards, and they were able to surround him and make deals to make the rest of it work.
They got a small window too. You talk about a team with a lot of money problems.
That is true.
They got a small window, but you know what? It might be right now. I mean, they're taking advantage of it. That's what you do when you have a small window. It's like, please jump through it.
Yeah.
Don't be one of these teams that goes, it's over with now, because we could get into this about how much money that roster is on or how much that team is on the hook for, and being in cap hell at some point, right?
Yeah.
But right now they're winning, and right now they might have the best roster makeup, like you were saying. Who's the team in the playoffs right now that you say the Jazz should mimic that team? Like
Thunder.
Realistically, it's the Thunder.
It's easy.
We've been saying it all year.
Oklahoma
right?
City Thunder. And I mentioned this last night as we were leading into their highlight. This gives Jazz fans some hope, because you look what the Thunder did. How many years did the Thunder have losing seasons in a row? It was 3: 2020, 21, and 22. And then what did they do during that time? Well, they tore it all down. They stunk, but they got a stockpile of picks, and they flipped their high-paid players for young talent.
And
Are you listening, Lakers?
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, by the way, was no, that's not a fluke. But what I'm saying is they hit harder on him, knowing that they were, but nobody knew he was going to hit like this, right?
Oh no,
so there's
who
some
could
of
have
that
predicted.
No,
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 3 years after that trade is going to be an MVP candidate.
No.
Nobody saw that.
No. And so that's like another. Again,
but
there are some things that need to happen
how
for you to be able to
was
get.
That?
No, amazing.
That they saw this. They had a situation where Paul George wanted to go to the Clippers to play with Kawhi.
Super team.
We all know how that went exactly.
Super team.
Okay. And the Clippers super team thing is kind of working right now, but where's Kawhi? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I think eventually, I do think Dallas is going to win that series. But back to the Thunder point. Is 3 straight years of losing, and it sucked. Now, Jazz fans, we just went through year 2. It sucks. Can you do another year? You might have to.
Are you gonna?
But what happens after that?
Is it 2 though? Is it really 2 more years that we're probably looking at?
Depends. It depends.
Now, I will say that the Grizzlies and the Thunder.
The Thunder wasn't. Why? Because they got it right in the draft.
So think about it.
Jalen Williams with a 12th pick has all-star potential. Chet Holmgren, although he missed his first year with the injury, it's pretty clear now that they hit with that one. That was a great pick.
Think about with the Grizzlies. So the Grizzlies started to have a build, and they immediately got way more quickly than we thought that they were going to. Now they're going through a weird moment. So throw that out.
Very weird.
But the Kings, they were the same kind of a situation last year where you go, oh, they're going to be pretty good in the future. Immediately go to what, the number 2? Were they the 2 seed last year?
Yeah, they were the 3 seed.
3 seed last year, and then this year fell off. Right?
Lost in the play-in.
Okay.
Didn't make it.
The Thunder on the scene quickly. Can they keep this up? This is the team that can keep it up. This is the team that
I agree.
I think they are the ones, because the Kings are a little bit of a flash in the pan, make the playoffs for the first time in 26 seasons or whatever it was. The Grizzlies, we thought were going to be good for a long time. That might go bye-bye for a while too.
Yeah.
So can the Jazz do something that is lasting and significant, that is like what they're doing in Oklahoma City? This is why you don't skip steps.
Yeah.
You can't, because you could have a fall off that's immediate. Now the Kings rather, they still have a really, really good roster. I mean, essentially they have the exact same group.
They're going to be fine.
They'll be fine. A lot of young guys.
They need to have patience. Like Malik Monk got hurt. That really hurt them. So it's always injuries, right? The injuries happen, stuff happens. But the Kings will be fine. The Pelicans, if Zion can get right, the Pelicans are right there. But if we're talking about the Jazz specifically here, How can they mimic what the Thunder are doing? They absolutely can because they've got a similar stockpile of picks. They do already have some nice young players on the team. I mean, I still consider Lauri Markkanen a young player. Mid-20s is still young, right?
Absolutely.
Colin Sexton is also very good, and he's very young. You've got some nice pieces. You got to go out there and get the guys in the draft that are going to help you get better quickly. And they got another chance to do that 1 month from now. In June. I should say almost 2 months from now. But 3 picks. They 2 firsts and an early second. They're going to have – I know it's not a great draft, but if we're talking about pain here, you might be more focused on the 2025 draft because that's going to be really good. And, yeah, that might be where you'll be able to get that guy that turns things.
If you're an NBA fan.
But that means another losing season.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it'll get worse for it. Well, not necessarily worse, but –
Suck it up and take the loss.
Yeah,
See,
for right now, absolutely. Figure it out. Get it right. I would say the Grizzlies, obviously they fell off this year and, the offseason stuff or the off-the-court stuff that, that their superstar got involved in. John Morant, Taylor Jenkins built it up. They even had a pretty darn good bubble season. Is that what we call this? The COVID year, that bubble title for the Lakers. They already were into the winning record side of things. Then they blew up the next year and went 56-20, so 30 games. That is very much Oklahoma City Thunder kind of territory.
Yeah,
because they go in and they're that team that everybody goes, they're going to be really, really hard to beat. But at the same time, you didn't know if it had staying power, and they're so brand new on the scene that you knew that they weren't going to be a title contender probably that year. So how the Jazz are going to do this long term, I'm really excited about, because all of the things that we are dogging on the Lakers for, the Lakers are a case study for us here in the state of Utah to say, well, obviously that doesn't work. And they're in the exact opposite spot. They don't have the names that are taking up so much money that you cannot do anything that's going to make any kind of an impact on this roster long term. They have all the picks you can imagine. They have all the patience in the world, which is hard for you as a fan. I'm telling you. I cannot stress enough that my kids checked out so hard on the Jazz in the last half of the season. The NHL coming to Utah, best thing that ever happened to my household. You know why? They forgot about how depressed they were with the Jazz this season. And I can guarantee that I'm not the only household that happened to this year. Lots of fans going, I'm kind of into this hockey thing. That's a big deal, right? The NHL coming to Utah? Yes. At the very least, it can help you forget your woes temporarily.
It will be very interesting this fall and throughout the winter to see how this dynamic plays out, because we've never experienced this before where there was an alternative to Utah Jazz basketball as far as a professional, to this level of entertainment during those months. The Jazz are going to have to respond to that, and they're going to have to stay entertaining, and they're going to have to be interesting, because this hockey team is going to be all those things.
What year was it? There was I just want there to be one of those situations where, imagine, if you will, in your mind's eye, that year that the Major League Baseball team is here. Maybe they've already been here a couple seasons. The NHL team taking off, right? There's a core. They're there. They're getting better. Bill Armstrong just stays here forever. And just keeps building rosters forever. Stay here.
He said they're going to be good for 10 years.
Danny Ainge is 81 years old and still building rosters into the we've already had the Olympics. The Winter Olympics were here a couple of years before that, right?
85-year-old Kyle Whittingham going for his third national championship.
Yes. Okay. Imagine, if you will, because there are moments in sports where you have this confluence of your Major League Baseball team, your hockey team. Lord knows I want to see an NFL team here at some point. But when you start to see multiple championships in one city in a year, Boston has seen that kind of thing.
Miami last year had the Heat and the Panthers in the finals of the NBA and NHL.
Just think about that kind of stuff happens all the time. Not all the time. Not all the time. No. But what I'm saying is it does happen, and I want you to picture in your mind's eye that moment when Utah gets all of it. You get a Stanley Cup. You get a Stanley Cup final appearance and maybe a win of the Stanley Cup. And then you get your Major League Baseball team going to the World Series, and you get your Utah Jazz going back to the Western Conference Finals again, Imagine how awesome your lives are going to be, all right? That's what could happen here, all right? All right.
It's building.
I feel better. I started off by dogging on the Lakers. I'm going to end this segment with the same thing. The Lakers stink. They're not getting any better. It's the old way of doing things, and you can't do it that way. You got to do it the right way. Don't just rely on a cajillion dollars you're paying a couple of dudes. So all the people that are clamoring for superstars, don't. Be careful what you wish for. Because as soon as it comes and then the money starts to hit, I will tell you, it's a bummer not having Rudy Gobert, right? It's not going to be a bummer not paying him $62 million in the next couple of seasons, right?
No.
All right. All right. Let's take a break. Hey, guess what we have? A way too early list. JJ, we're keeping things up like we do on our show.
I love it. Still way too early season.
Way too early season.
Good. Post-spring edition.
The post-spring edition of our Big 12 power rankings. I didn't get to throw my votes in because you guys did this while I was gone. Or I guess the votes were actually taken while I was gone.
I have a confession.
You didn't do yours either?
Me and Mitch even talked about it on the show, we were so busy with the
Forgot
NHL
to press
stuff,
send?
I did not submit my votes. Maybe I'll have to do it next.
You know what? Next, JJ and I roll out our version, okay? You get Mitch's version, we'll roll out our version of this one. So stay with us. 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on the Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Curie, Jeremiah Jensen. So I just went through and I found my initial poll of the way too early, way too early. This is just the way too early. The one we did at the beginning, I forgot how we did it right when the season ended, essentially. We were actually not even done with the college football season overall. The college football playoffs, we still hadn't even played those those 2 games yet, and then, obviously the national championship game hadn't been decided. We were already moved on. Big 12 was already moving on. We're trying to figure it out. So we have an updated, way too early Big 12 power poll. And if you go over to KSLSports.com, you can find it, and you can see what Mitch's new list. I say Mitch's new list. It was essentially everybody's votes, except for JJ and I. I was gone.
I want to publicly apologize to Mitch Harper for I am an idiot not getting my poll in on time.
I didn't either, and
I think that's why it's skewed here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, our votes. Do you think our votes would have?
I think they would have.
Well, you and I both.
When we reveal them here shortly, I think it'll make sense that it probably would have skewed things a bit.
Okay. I don't want to change a ton on mine. What I do want to change is the ones at the very top. And my initial poll that I had, and I think that I want you to keep in mind a few polls. All right, there's the one that is that's being thrown out there today. That's the brand new poll. All right, and I'm flabbergasted because I don't know how this happened, but here's your new power rankings, at least according to our staff. All right, in the Big 12. Number 1, Oklahoma State. What are we talking about?
Masterpiece of dog shit.
So now here's the thing. The post-spring ballots, there were 6 people of our staff who voted them number 1. What are they seeing at Is it just the Mike Gundy effect?
They have the best running back in the country.
Is it the Ollie Gordon effect then? Yes. Okay.
But who's their quarterback?
Definitely one of the worst quarterbacks in the league last year.
He's a veteran quarterback. I'll give him that respect, but he's not a dynamic playmaking quarterback like a lot of the other guys in this league are.
You got one job. You hand the ball off to Ollie Gordon. All right? So Oklahoma State, in our initial polls, they were the way too early poll in January. They were number 2. I still think that was high back then. I don't remember being as upset about it as I am right now. I don't think they should be number 1. I don't know why I think that, except for it just doesn't feel like it. Now, my initial poll, here's my top 4 in my initial vote. Arizona, Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State. I had Oklahoma State 4 in my initial one. I'm not sure I would let them leapfrog that much. Arizona took a hit because Jedd Fisch is gone. That's the newest revelation for them, right? Since this time when we made this, because after this, of course, everything happened. Kalen DeBoer left. The Nick Saban leaving Alabama butterfly effect happened, and that was it. And that affects this poll. It should. I don't have Arizona as number 1. I have Arizona now in my new one at number 3 because I don't think they took that big of a hit. And what do they have, JJ? A dynamic quarterback.
And some playmakers on the outside, yes.
A lot of guys who stayed.
Good team.
It's a good team.
And a good coach. They hired a good coach.
They did hire a good coach.
Brennan won at San Jose State. He won a Mountain West title at San Jose State. Like, respect that.
So
he can coach.
I think Arizona's still at 2. I have to put Utah at 1 now. Have to put Utah at 1, and I don't know why it wouldn't be Utah, Arizona. I still would put Kansas ahead of Oklahoma State because I think they have the most potential to rock that boat, and they're going to get better. I think Oklahoma State's 4. That's my top 4 right there. Your new top 4.
My new top 4. Do you want me to count from 4?
Oh, it makes it more exciting, doesn't
Let's do that. Let's do it the other way. Number 4, I have the Kansas Jayhawks.
Okay.
Number 3, I have the Arizona Wildcats.
All right.
Number 2, I have the Kansas State Wildcats. And I have no idea how they're 5th in our poll because they bring a lot of talent back. They just added Colorado's running back in the portal. They're really good. And they have an excellent coach. Really good coach. So does Kansas. And I just told you about Brennan, how much I respect him at Arizona.
Chris Kleiman deserves more.
Chris Kleiman is a terrific. I mean, what he did at North Dakota State and what he's done at Kansas State, which is not the easiest place to win.
No.
Although there's been moments of history, but historically, Kansas State's been a bad football program, and he's winning there consistently. Number 1, your Utah Utes. I just look at what they've got coming back, how spring went. The development's there. I feel like they have some depth they can trust at quarterback now. I think they're loaded in the skill positions more so than they've been going back to, obviously, the Rose Bowl years. So, I mean, that 1-year blip, I feel it's just going to be a blip. They just got too much talent and a lot of experienced talent. I think they win the league their first year. I think a Utah Utes, Kansas State Wildcats, Big 12 championship game would be awesome. And they don't play each other during the regular season, so that would make it very, very intriguing. But that is my prediction for year 1 in the Big 12 new, whatever we're going to call it. Big 12 4.0. How many times has the Big 12 changed?
I don't know. Well, I will say this. Kansas State, we determined, did have the word easy's not, but they have a path that is they're avoiding a lot of the good teams this year.
Yes, and they play Arizona, but it's a non-conference
Do they
game.
miss? They miss on Utah and Oklahoma State, I think.
I think so.
And so Kansas State, sleeper, I have them at 5. So where'd you put Oklahoma State? Did you put them at 5?
5.
Okay. Well, now I feel like a chump. Now,
why? Because we didn't vote?
That's fine.
Because we messed everything up?
No. Would you and I putting the Utes number 1 have put them at?
Yes.
Do you think it
would have? Yep.
Oh, boy.
And it would have put Kansas State up where they belong.
Hey,
so,
Jeremy.
Mitch, we are so sorry. Everyone reading at KSLSports.com right now, and you're throwing something at the wall, it was our fault.
All right. Hey, Jeremy.
We're sorry. By the way, Kansas State does play Oklahoma State September 28th.
Oh, they do.
That's a big, 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 big game in September.
Jeremy, just don't tell Mitch we even did this. All right?
Okay.
Tell him we talked about his article. Oh, we had a great time talking about the power poll. Now, here's the problem.
Yeah, I put a Utah number 1, so it's okay.
Oh, you represented the show?
There you go. I at least turned in my ballot.
Turned it. Hey, I was on paternity leave, all right? I was changing diapers, mixing up formula. I actually do a lot of that, by the way. My entire life has just been that for the last 17 years. All right. So I think we all agree. Now, the ones that I still think should be further up on the list, I don't think in the newest list also, because Arizona only got down to 3 on that list. Kansas is 4. I have them swapped right there. Kansas State I have at 5.
You have Kansas State at 5.
Yeah, I have Kansas State at 5, and I have Oklahoma
Weird.
State at 4.
Okay.
I know. Well, you and I just basically flip-flopped.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State 4, Kansas State 5 for me.
Okay.
I put West Virginia at 6, which is where they ended up on this final poll, at least in the spring. Did they move up then? No, they moved down. They were 5. That's some like very they overperformed so much that we all kind of threw them a massive bone, right? After everything was said and done. Iowa State 7, UCF 8. Where do they go by now? It's not Central Florida. Don't say it. I love the picture that they picked of KJ Jefferson on their social media pages a week ago. It's of the space city. Isn't that the light, the powder blue, the space jersey? Which, by the way, they do. If you've ever been to Orlando more than like a day or two, they're launching rockets, man, all the freaking time. Texas Tech at 9. 10 is Colorado. Tied for 10th is Colorado. With Colorado is TCU, which you think about those two teams next to each other being tied. That doesn't even seem like it would be possible right now. I don't know. I don't know where. I think Colorado for me is just tumbling. Now I had Colorado in my initial one. I had them at 11, and then I had BYU at 12, and I don't change that right now. And BYU stays at 12. In the post-spring ballots, the highest vote, and I'm assuming it was Matt Baiamonte. Is that a bad assumption to make? And even Homer Matt Baiamonte put him at 9. That was the highest. That was the highest ranking that they got. No one's high on BYU right now.
I had him 12.
I had him at 12.
I could be very wrong. In fact, I've got them behind Baylor, and I don't know what Baylor's going to be this year. They're in that. So
we got behind Baylor.
Let me throw something positive out there on BYU, because I'm sure BYU fans like 12. Man, that's brutal. There's a lot of room here, flexibility. I don't think they're in that upper tier. I don't think anybody would argue that they're in that top 5, 6, 7 tier. But bowl eligibility tier, you start getting into UCF, Texas Tech,
TCU,
Colorado, TCU, Baylor. That group, I think BYU's in that group. I don't think BYU's in the Arizona State, Houston, Cincinnati group.
So the 5, 6, 7 type win group is where you have them.
Exactly.
All right.
You could go any which way. If the quarterback hits for BYU, maybe 7 or 8 wins. If it doesn't, maybe 4 wins. I don't know. But that's the area where BYU could move up and down. Maybe they're better. I mean, we saw them against Iowa State head-to-head. Could you like, even the most hardcore BYU fan, can you say they're better than Iowa State today? I say no.
I don't think so.
I think it's pretty clear.
Do we remember
what happened?
Quarterback
are coming back, and they just absolutely obliterated BYU in Provo.
Right. You lost by 30 at home to Iowa State last year.
Texas Tech, you might be better than Texas Tech. I think they beat Texas Tech last year at home.
Texas Tech was on their third quarterback.
They don't get to play Colorado this year, but I still think they could very well be better than Colorado. TCU, I'm not sure where TCU's at right now. Again, TCU boat raced BYU last year as well. But I'm not sure the
didn't
talent
show up the rest of the year.
Right, but
what
what is going on with TCU? I don't know where they're at, because we know they have talent, and they were just in a national championship game 2 years ago. And TCU's been that way since they joined the Big 12, where they have a great year and then they suck. A great year, then they suck. I don't understand where TCU is right now. They've just been very inconsistent during their time in the Big 12. Can they find that consistency now that some of the big dogs like Texas and Oklahoma are out? I don't think so. But BYU can move up in that group. BYU could be, maybe they're number 6, maybe they're number 7. They'll have to go out and prove it, but we got to see it. And we got to see that they have something at the quarterback position. I don't think anyone is convinced of that yet.
Baylor 13, Arizona State 14, Houston 15, and Cincinnati 16. That is where the ballots all shook out on KSLSports.com and the post-spring power rankings for the Big 12. What's great about this is, if we were to go back, I mean, I don't know if we did. I don't think we did. We do a way too. We had to have done a way too early poll last year. I don't know where I was at on that one. I don't know where. I think we probably had BYU a little bit higher than they probably should have been. Just based off of, there was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of, and people got punched in the gut about when they were 4-4 on the season.
That's a good question. I don't want to. BYU fan doesn't want us to go back and relive a lot of that right now. But real quick, what was the moment last year when it flipped? because they were in the top 25. I mean, the Arkansas win was electric.
Yeah.
The come from behind win there. They had momentum.
They were 4-1. They were 4-1.
Things were rolling. I'm trying to remember when the wheels came off where you're like, probably Kansas. Probably Kansas.
The TCU game. Kansas was close enough that you felt okay about it.
Losing by 2 touchdowns, that Kansas, a team that you should have beat.
Parker Kingston getting punched in the mouth on the very first play.
Pick 6 and a near pick 6.
Yes. Yeah.
It was kind of like
it was your first Big 12. It was your first road Big 12 game,
I was
right?
there in person.
Not
I was
good.
at the game, and it just felt like a lot of air came out of that group after that loss.
So I think it was because they lost to Kansas, but it was semi-respectable, 38-27. Yeah, you lose by double-digit scores though. They still lost.
2 touchdowns when you give up two defensive.
But then they came back the next
Kansas.
week to home and they got their first Big 12 win against Cincinnati, right? Who we know now was bad. Bad. But then they lost by 33 to TCU. They beat Texas Tech, but everyone knew that there was a quarterback situation at Tech that they kind of had gotten away with. Then they go 3 weeks in a row of losing by 30. Texas, West Virginia was an embarrassment. Iowa State was really bad because that one was at home too. And then you got those 2 games with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State that you felt like, okay, there might be something going on here.
It was the West Virginia game where it was just like, oh, this is what is wrong with
there was
this team?
There was no energy in that game.
37-7 against a team that, in my opinion, they exceeded expectations, but they were a bit mid.
It's good to go back and look because then we know, boy, that was a hard time.
That
wasn't
was
it?
also the first game without Slovis.
Yes. Yeah.
So
a new era. All right. We'll take the break. We'll come back. We've got more to go around the corner. I have our Would You Rather next. So stay with us. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Listen, everybody. Real-life hypotheticals to get your brain churning. As JJ and Alex ask, would you rather?
All right. Let me see here. We got to hit the. We got to get to the BYU breaking news.
We got a breaking
news desk. All right. During the break, JJ.
This is why you listen.
Should not be a shock to anybody, and in fact, it probably helps a little bit. But it's also a little bit of a bummer for BYU fans. Anytime somebody goes in the transfer portal, what do you got?
All right. This is why you listen to JJ and Alex in the afternoon. We have breaking news. Ryder Burton, BYU quarterback, is entering the transfer portal.
All right.
So BYU has lost a quarterback this afternoon.
Enter McKay Hillstead, exit Ryder Burton. Now, you got to watch him play at Springville High School.
Yeah.
A big body, traditional-looking quarterback to be sure, right?
Really athletic, confident, strong kid. He's not a kid anymore, but when I was covering him, he was. Interviewing him in high school, you don't have a lot of high school kids that have the maturity and poise that he did.
Absolutely.
He was really impressive, right? Really impressive. Now, is he better than McKay Hillstead? No.
Okay. There you go.
And I think that was proven in high school. They crossed over in high school. They were competing, not in the exact same years, but there was crossover there. So McKay Hillstead has the ability to throw the ball downfield a little bit better, more consistently. They both pretty good with their legs, but McKay Hillstead is really, really fast.
Is that a tough conversation that happened after spring, or was it just a writing on the wall situation? Do you think it was McKay Hillstead coming in and getting the writing on the wall, or I would hope that BYU would be honest enough with some of these guys to not just stack their quarterback room with a bunch of bodies and say, all right, you guys all figure it out. And we like some of these guys. We don't like some of these guys. And they'll transfer out when they figure out that they're not going to be playing. So far, because of BYU's quarterback room and the adding of quarterbacks in the offseason and transfer portal quarterbacks still coming in and now Ryder Burton going out, they haven't signed all of the guys they've offered for 2025. Not one of them has signed yet. They've lost them to other schools.
Right.
Why would you want to come to quarterback U when they have a quarterback problem? And I think that, obviously the season will bear it out. They're not going to play 6 quarterbacks. Heaven knows you hope they don't, right? So
You can't.
you cannot.
If you play more than 2 this year, BYU is going to have an epically difficult
tough.
year.
Very tough. So
That means someone got hurt or is ineffective and multiple.
Ryder Burton in the transfer portal. We were like kind of waiting to see which of these quarterbacks.
This is not surprising at all because
and it can't be the last either,
once
right?
McKay Hillstead came in, it felt like, okay, here's a young guy who's going to be a sophomore in eligibility who has a chance to compete for the starting job. And a lot of these younger guys are going to be like, uh-oh. They brought McKay Hillstead in, who played last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to sit here and wait 3 more years before I get my chance? No. I'm out.
Yep. All right. There you go. What a difference a day makes. We'll have more to go. We've got to take a break when we come back. We've got tons to talk about still the rest of the day. You don't want to miss any of it. Tim Twentyman coming on the program here. He's the Lions senior writer and insider for DetroitLions.com. We're going to talk a little bit about what the addition of Sione Vaki into that running back room, or is it just running back that they're interested in? They worked him out for everything. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll get a breakdown from Tim Twentyman. Looking forward to it. Saw a lot of his pre-draft stuff, and he knows what he's talking about. In fact, maybe more than anybody else, DetroitLions.com is where he's, of course, writing for, so that's a big deal. We'll come back. More to go. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.